There is a strange kind of silence on the moon. It is not like a quiet forest at night. It is a heavy, unnatural stillness that fills empty rooms. You can feel the air pressure pushing against your ears. You hear the low hiss of the suit feeding you oxygen. When you look through a helmet, nothing on the surface moves. Earthly ruins break down over time. Rain wears away stone and rust eats iron. Time on Earth leaves clear marks. Out here, time stays frozen. A footprint in the grey dust stays fresh forever. Nothing rots on this dark rock. Lunar Research Station Alpha sits right in the middle of the stillness. You arrive here as an engineer to fix the station systems. You step inside and expect a normal job. Instead, you find an empty base filled with cold machinery. The station uses retro-futuristic technology, combining analog and digital. The rooms feel heavy, dark, and industrial. You see thick wires, bulky C.A.T screens, and heavy hydraulic doors. Rubber seals line every door frame. Yellowed plastic covers the control panels on the walls. Space travel here feels hot, loud, and dangerous. This design makes the horror feel very real and grounded. Clean sci-fi tech feels safe and distant. When a futuristic computer breaks, it feels like a simple software bug. When the heavy iron door jams out here, you feel physical fear. You know how thin that glass visor really is. You know a single leak means death. The game tricks you with this old industrial setting. It makes you think you are in a standard survival story. You expect to fight broken machines and fix power lines. You believe the station suffered a normal mechanical breakdown. The heavy tools in your hands make you feel prepared. You walk through narrow halls made of cold steel plates. The air system hums with a flat sound that never changes. Automated lights flicker on overhead as you walk past. Personal items lie scattered across the desks in the office rooms. Coffee cups sit next to terminal screens that still blink. A moon base relies completely on set schedules to keep people alive. Workers must follow strict rules every single day. They check air filters, clean water tanks, and run system tests. This daily routine keeps workers calm in deep space. It stops panic from setting in. When you remove the people, the remaining rooms look creepy. Transit halls and cafeteria lines were built for human crowds. They have no purpose when no one uses them. You see unmade beds in the crew quarters. You read personal messages on screens left open mid-sentence. In most horror games, the environment feels actively evil. Dark hallways feel tailored to hide bloodthirsty monsters. The lunar base feels scary for a very different reason. It does not care that you are walking through it. The base just keeps running its automatic programs in an empty room. The station keeps scrubbing air for lawns that do not breathe. Automated screens cycle through map layouts that nobody watches. Heavy steel doors groan open with a loud metallic screech. That noise breaks the deep quiet and shows how alone you are. You are not an action hero sent to save the day. You are a lonely walker walking through a giant metal grave. If you die in these halls, the lights will stay on. The generators will keep humming until the fuel runs out. The station will keep running its daily tests for years. You move slowly through the dark to save your suit battery. Every step you take makes a dull thud against the door. You move slowly through the dark. Every step you take makes a dull thud against the floor. That sound bounces off the walls and travels down empty halls. You feel like an unwanted visitor in a very old tomb. The silence around you feels thicker with every room you check. The game builds tension by making you wait in the dark. It forces you to listen to the small noises of your suit. You hear your own breath rasp against the inside of the glass. You hear your heart beat faster as you enter new sectors. This early part of the game creates a solid sense of reality. The heavy controls and mechanical sounds make the world feel authentic. You learn to trust your eyes, your ears, and your tool. You think you understand the rails of this dead lunar station. That sense of safety is completely fake. The game builds this grounded world just to tear it down later. The cold metal halls are only the outer shell of the station. Something much worse is waiting deeper underground beneath the grey dust. The physical silence of the upper base is just a start. You think your biggest threat is a broken air valve or a short circuit. You do not know that your own mind is already falling apart. The spores in the air have already entered your suit. You keep pushing forward because you want to find real answers. You want to reach the main computer and call for help. You follow the broken schedule left behind by the missing crew. You step deeper into the dark base and leave the airlock behind. A base on the moon needs strict order to keep people alive. In deep space, survival comes down to daily work. People must follow set schedules every single hour. They check air tanks, fix water pipes, and test power lines. They eat meals at set times in large mess halls. This daily work keeps panic away from the crew. It keeps workers focused on simple tasks instead of the dark void outside. This set work is the core of this station. When you enter Union Plaza, you see what happens when that order breaks. Every hallway and train hub was built for human crowds. People use these paths to move from one job to the next. These spaces only make sense when crowds walk through them. A long hallway is not a final destination. A train station needs waiting passengers to make sense. Without people, the design of the base feels wrong. Empty rooms feel creepy because life ended mid-step. You walk into break rooms and see cold coffee in plastic mugs. Unmade beds sit in the sleeping quarters with deep head marks on the pillows. You read typed locks on terminal screens left open on desks. Workers typed notes about bad food, broken lights, and strange sounds in the vents. These notes show how fast the end came for the crew. The workers typed their messages and simply vanished. The quiet rooms leave you alone with your own thoughts. You must guess what happened in these halls before you arrived. The base does not feel evil or mean. It feels cold and unfeeling. The halls do not twist to trap you. Fluorescent lights flicker overhead with a flat buzz. Signs point to maintenance rooms in clear print. Heavy doors open slowly with loud air leaks because that is how engineers build them. The dead base keeps running its own loops. It does not know the crew is dead. The air systems keep cleaning the air. The wall screens keep showing maps of empty rooms. The base works like a giant iron clock that keeps ticking in an empty house. Then a heavy sound shatters the room. You hear a loud thud on the metal floor plating. A tall machine steps into the dim light of an emergency bulb. This is a Type 05 assistant unit. This machine does not hate you. It acts on simple computer code. An unknown sickness broke out on this base weeks ago. The main computer network locked down the whole station to stop it. The system marked all human bodies as dangerous waste hazards. The white machines now walk the halls to clear these hazards away. The machine spots you across the room. It does not growl or make angry noises. It moves toward you with a quick, hard stride. Heavy metal feet slam down on the floor plates with steady speed. The electric motor inside its chest whines as it gains power. You cannot talk to this machine or ask for help. You cannot hear your voice. Its simple computer code only sees a hazard on the floor. When the machine catches you, the fight ends fast. Heavy steel arms grab your suit and crush the frame. Your suit visor cracks under the weight. The screen goes black right away, like pulling a power plug from a wall. The game does not show a long death scene. The machine clears your body from the floor and moves on. It goes back to its simple work loop in the empty hall. You cannot fight these machines with your hand tools. The plastic tool in your grip is not a gun. It cannot shoot through steel plates and motor joints. A quick electric blast might stop a machine for 1 second, but it will not break it. You cannot kill a machine that was never alive. This reality changes how you move through the rooms. You stop running through the open halls. You creep along walls and hide behind heavy crates. You wait in dark storage lockers with your breath held tight. You listen to heavy metal feet step past your hiding spot. You watch the red light on the machine scan the room through small slots in the locker door. The heavy sound of your boots becomes your own enemy. Every step you take echoes down the metal halls. Pulling the wall lever makes a loud grinding noise that carries far. Opening a stuck door makes a loud air hiss that breaks the quiet. You feel like a stranger sneaking through a grave. You keep moving because you think a rescue team is waiting deeper inside. You expect to find survivors behind locked airlocks. You hope to reach the main command room and find the radio to call Earth. You think human help is waiting at the end of the line. That hope keeps you moving through the dark. You fix power boxes, clear door locks, and cross empty train hubs. You follow the path left by the missing crew. The deep quiet of the base grows heavier with every floor you clear. The empty rooms do not lead to living people. They just lead to more empty halls and dark work tunnels. You begin to see that help is not coming. The order of the base broke long ago, and you're left alone with the cold machines.
I'm just completing the parameter check after the latest quake. Everything remains stable. Pipelines look good. Everything's operational. No damage to the base or its foundation.
Most video games give you a safe digital screen to protect your mind. They show bright numbers in the corner of your view to display your health. They show small arrows pointing toward your next door. They display your item counts in neat boxes over dark holes. This digital display makes hard games feel simple and safe. It reassures you that the game system is guiding your steps. This game takes the display away right from the start. Your view shows no bright health meters, no minimaps, and no floating arrows. You only see the glass frame of your helmet and dark rooms ahead. To find your way through the base, you must use a physical tool. That tool is the Cosmonaut Assistance Tool, or the C.A.T. It is a heavy piece of equipment made of plastic and metal. It holds internal wires, mechanical switches, and a small glass monitor. The screen flickers with green lights and dull light. The tool feels old, heavy, and awkward in your hands. Using it takes real effort and makes you drop your guard. When you lift it up to scan a dark room, it blocks half your view. Its small flashlight shines a thin beam of light into the dark. To read its small screen, you must look down toward your chest. That movement takes your eyes off the hall in front of you. Checking your gear means choosing to go blind for a moment. You stand still in a pitch-black room and stare at the small 4-inch screen. You listen to the low hum of the bass and hope nothing sneaks up behind your back. The simple act of reading a level becomes a risky move. Every action with a tool takes physical effort in real time. Fixing a door lock is not a matter of holding a single button down. You must turn small dials and flip heavy switches on the tool frame. You watch green wave lines jump across the small screen until they line up. When the battery dies, the tool turns off right away. You must slide in a fresh pack every time. The metal latch snaps a sharp snapping noise as it locks. That loud sound bounces off the walls and tells everything nearby where you are standing. This heavy design changes how you think about your tools. Tech in space stories often makes walkers feel strong and safe. On this station, tech makes you feel slow and weak. The tool is heavy, old, and easy to break. It runs on small batteries that die fast when you use the light. You lean on that your survival depends on a cheap plastic box and thin wires. You do not have superpowers or fast weapons. You are just a normal walker in a bulky suit holding old equipment. This setup changes how you walk through every new room. You do not run down open paths or jump over fallen junk. You walk slowly with your back pressed against cold steel walls. You turn off your flashlight to save power even when the room is pitch black. You weigh the needs for light against the risk for drawing unwanted attention. Fear in this game comes from feeling clumsy. You do not fail because you ran out of life points on a meter. You fail because you stared down at a screen instead of watching the doorway. You fail because your old tool could not move as fast as your panic demanded. The game keeps you grounded in your own physical suit. You are not floating camera with a big gun. You are a fragile human being trapped in a heavy gear. You carry old equipment into dark rooms and try to survive an environment that does not care if you live or die. Your suit limits how fast you can turn and look around. The heavy helmet blocks your side view, so you must turn your whole body to check a noise. When you run, your breath gets fast and loud inside the helmet. The glass fogs up slightly at the edges from your hot breath. These small details make the base feel real and dangerous. You feel the weight of every item you carry in your hands. You know that a drop tool or a slow reaction will cost you your life. You cannot pause the game to fix your gear in safety. Everything happens right now while the dark room waits around you. As you move deeper into the lower floors, your tools begins to glitch. The green screen on the GAT flashes with static lines for no clear reason. The mechanical switches stick when you try to flip them. You do not know if the tool is breaking from bad maintenance or something else. You only know that your single line of safety is starting to fail. You hold the plastic box tighter in your gloved hands and step into the next dark corridor. Then the story takes a sudden, dark shift. You finish shutting down the security system on the upper floors. You expect to find an escape path or an open exit door. Instead, your mind goes blank and you black out. You wake up on a completely different floor, deep underground. This place is called the Ward. The wood belongs to an old research group from the 1970s. The room looks old, dirty, and worn down by water leaks. Old paper files and reel tapes sit on wet tables in dark office rooms. Rust covers the walls, and thick mold grows in the dark corners. You discover why the base computer locked down the station in the first place. It was not a simple software bug or broken wire. The base was invaded by a strange fungal mold called the EL9 spore. It came from a deep underground cavern called the Canal. This spore attacks the human body in a slow, silent way. It causes bad memory loss, wild visions, and sudden blackouts. The spores make workers hear strange noises inside their own heads. Eventually, the infected workers feel a strong urge to walk down into the dark cavern. The main computer detected this danger weeks ago. It sealed the doors and sent machines to clean the holes. It treated all human workers as dirty waste that needed to be destroyed. The threat in the world changes from cold machines to something far worse. You encounter a new danger called Entity A. This entity is a strange creature born from the deep mold cavern. It is completely invisible to your normal human eyes. You walk down flooded hallways and see nothing in front of you. You hear no heavy metal feet on the floor plate. The dark hall looks completely empty and quiet. You must use your plastic tool to see this silent threat. You lift the heavy tool to your visor and look at its small screen. The green monitor shows a tall, twisted shadow moving through the room. It walks slowly through the water, straight towards your spot. On the screen, it looks like a dark shape with no clear face. This setup makes your physical tool even more important for survival. You must stare at a small 4-inch screen to track an invisible enemy. While looking down at the monitor, you cannot see the dark room in front of your face. If you put the tool down to run, you move blind against a silent hunter. The deep quiet of the base turns into a dangerous trap. The creature makes no sound as it glides over the wet floor. You cannot hear it breathe or step through the dark. You only know it is near when your tool screen starts to flicker with heavy static lines. The physical rules you learned on the upper floors no longer work. You cannot hide from an enemy that sees everywhere. You cannot fight a shadow with simple hand tools. You can only move around its path and pray it does not touch your suit. Your suit offers little safety down here in the wet holes. The air filters click constantly as they struggle to clean the moldy air. Small green spores float through the air like light dust in a sunbeam. You realize your suit seals may already be leaking. The environment itself feels sick and infected. The mold covers the wall panels and hangs from ceiling pipes. Wet floorboards give way under your boots with soft squishing sounds. The air smells like rot and wet dirt breaking through your suit filters. You find old voice tapes left behind by the early research team. The voices sound tired, confused, and deeply scared. Workers speak about losing track of time and seeing strange signs in empty rooms. They talk about a quiet voice calling them down into the deep caves below. These tapes show that the team lost their minds long before they died. The spores took over their thoughts piece by piece. The workers stopped fixing the station systems and stopped calling for help. They simply walked down into the dark pit one by one. You realize you're following the exact same path. Your recent blackout was not an accident or a simple tiredness. The spores are already inside your helmet, walking on your brain. The dark visions you saw earlier were the first signs of the sickness taking hold. Your main goal changes from escaping the base to finding the source of the mold. The game strips away your false hope of finding normal survivors. You see that everyone on this base died or lost their humanity weeks ago. You are the last person standing in a ruined, moldy grave. You move through flooded medical rooms and dirty lab spaces. You find old glass jars filled with strange black liquids and mold samples. The research team tried to study the spore, but the spore won the fight in the end. It spread through the air ducts and took over every floor. Every step deeper into the ward takes you further from the light. The cold steel walls of the upper base gave way to rough stone and wet dirt. The retro-tech looks broken, old, and covered in vines. The quiet in these lower halls feels heavy and thick. It is not just the absence of sound, it feels like a physical force. It presses against your helmet and fills your mind with bad thoughts. You grip your tool tightly and step down into the lower tunnels. The deeper you go into the old tunnels, the more your mind starts to fall apart. You realize you are not a healthy walker looking at a simple accident. You caught the spore sickness before you ever stepped out of your ship. Your blackouts, your lost time, and your wild visions are clear signs of the mold in your brain. You're losing your normal thoughts. A quiet voice starts speaking inside your own head. It does not sound like a scary monster or a loud radio message. It speaks using your own calm voice. It talks to you softly like an old friend. It tells you to stop fighting and stop feeling afraid. This voice guides your steps through the dark wet halls. It tells you that your human life is small and weak. It promises that something better is waiting down in the deep caves. You stop looking for an exit door or a radio tower. You just follow the voice down. The work you do on the computer terminals turns very strange. You are no longer fixing air systems or power lines. You run medical tests on deep rock samples. You mix a strange glowing liquid in small glass jars. You inject this fluid into a soft mold capsule on the floor. You do these odd tasks without questioning why. The spore in your brain drives your hands to work. Your basic survival instinct fades away completely. You do not care about your battery power or your air supply anymore. You only want to reach the deep cavern called the Canal. The halls around you look less like a human base now. The sharp steel walls give way to soft, wet stone caves. This black mold covers the floor like a dirty carpet. Water drips from the ceiling with slow, steady sounds that fill the quiet dark. You see dark plastic bags lying along the stone walls. These bags hold the soft remains of the old research team. These people walked down into the dark years ago and never came back. They lay down in the mold and let the cave take their bodies. The sight of these dead bodies does not scare you anymore. The voice in your head tells you that these workers did not die in vain. It says they joined something bigger and grander than human life. You look at their soft shapes and feel a strange sense of peace. This part of the game changes the fear completely. You are no longer running from white machines or hiding from invisible shapes. The real horror comes from your own willingness to drop your guard. You stop fighting the dark and accept the sickness in your head. You step onto the narrow stone ledges over deep pits. The air is thick, damp, and heavy with floating green dust. Your flashlight beam cuts through the dark, showing long mold vines hanging from the ceiling. The cave looks alive, soft and wet. The physical quiet of deep space merges with the quiet in your head. You do not hear the cold wind or the hum of electrical wires. You only hear your own slow breathing inside the helmet and the soft voice guiding your steps. Every exhalation sounds loud in the small glass dome. You walk past old research tools left behind in the dirt, broken camera tripods, dead battery boxes, and torn tents sit covered in mold. These old tools shout that the science failed down here long ago. Human tech could not stop or explain the deep cave life. Your own tool feels useless now. The green screen flickers with constant noise and static lines. The small flashlight beam turns dim as the battery runs dry. You do not bother to change the battery pack anymore. You do not need the light to see your path. The voice in your head lights the way forward. It tells you where to step and where to turn in the dark. You trust the voice more than your own eyes or your physical gear. You move through the dark tunnels with slow, steady steps. You feel the heavy weight of the moon rock above your head. Miles of solid stone sit between you and the open sky. You are buried deep inside a cold, dead world, far from the light of Earth. Yet you do not feel trapped or afraid in the tight space. The spore sickness removes your natural fear of small dark spaces. It replaces your human thoughts with a cold, quiet calm. You feel like you belong in these stone halls. You step into the vast underground chamber of the Canal. The giant cave opens up wide around your small suit. You do not see cold steel walls, electrical wires, or glass monitors here. The floor of the cave is covered in soft, weld mold mats. Fleshy sacks and long blue vines grow across the dark stone floor. These are the soft remains of every walker who walked down here before you. A giant rock sphere sits right in the middle of the dark room. It pulses with a soft blue light that lights up the wet cave. You walk towards it. The simple act finishes a long biological job started 50 years ago. As you stare into the open chamber, your sick mind shows you a strange final vision. You see yourself standing inside the sphere, looking back at your own suit through the new eyes. The voice inside you speaks one last time. It speaks with a clear, absolute sound that fills your whole mind. Through me, you endure. Through you, I endure. You step forward into the open chamber without hesitation. You leave your heavy suit, your old tools, and your human name behind the dirty floor. You let your own mind melt away into the deep life of the cave. You become part of the long biological cycle buried beneath the grey dust. The game ends with a cold paper report from a company office on Earth. The report states that all contact with the team was lost deep in the wood. It notes that strange moonquakes have started again across the surface. The final picture sent back from the base shows a dark stone cave filled with the blooming blue vines. The company closed the files and left the base behind. This is the final meaning of the routine and its horror of silence. The story begins with the physical silence of deep space. You fear the cold, airless void outside your suit visor. You fear the heavy quiet of the empty halls and the cold white machines. That silence feels dangerous because it threatens your physical life on the moon. The story ends with a much worse kind of quiet. It ends with a quiet surrender of your own human mind. The daily routine was never about fixing a base or running tests. The real routine belongs to the moon itself. The deep cave life sits in the dark for thousands of years, waiting for humans to build metal boxes on the surface. It waits for walkers to step inside and listen to the soft voice below. The screen fades to complete blackness. The quiet voice stops speaking in your head. Out on the great surface of the moon, the deep silence reclaims everything.